Hey everyone, it's Types, and today I'm looking at more custom cards, and these are all Eeveelutions, and these are all made by Sambam 111, and these are really cool cards. I talked about some of the cards in my previous custom cards video, as well as some other Eeveelutions. But if you don't know, I'm doing a contest where you can make your own Eeveelution EX cards or single prizes. You can submit whatever custom cards you want as well, and I'm interested in just seeing your ideas because there are some really cool ones, and Pokemon often makes cards simpler so that they actually, work. But there are certain ideas that they sometimes miss. And so it's cool to see these ideas explored, even if some of them are sillier. But also some of these cards are just simpler and more realistic to the actual TCG. But with that out of the way, oh, and it is my Discord server, link down below. But let's hop right in. And we got Flareon here first, 140 HP. Not all these have all their things on them. This one doesn't have images, or it doesn't have the regular image. It has to have the EV image. And it doesn't have, text here, which I usually don't put text here. And then these are also made by the Pokecard Maker by Ashfield. That is linked in my Discord server. It's super useful. There are a few, but I think that's the best one. And there is no attack name here, but and there might be certain like capitalization, wording errors, things like that. But they're all and even in the last video, I could tell what all the attacks were supposed to be, and it was very clear what they were supposed to do. But this one, Cheerful Fury here, and it's an ability. The attacks used by your Pokemon that evolve from EV do 30 more damage to your opponent's active before weakness and resistance, and you can only use one Cheerful Fury ability at a time. And then we also have the Fire Colorless Colors. It does 120, and this attack's damage isn't affected by any effects on your opponent's active. This is a classic ability, increasing damage, and we've seen abilities like this in the past, and we saw abilities like this with the Eeveelutions from the late Sun and Moon era. I believe they helped out, I think Eeveelution GXs, they were very similar to this, and it's just really solid. Not stacking is really important so that this card isn't like super broken or super powerful at the very least, but just a really solid card, really cool card here. Then we have a Flareon EX next, and it has a 260 HP, and it has an ability and attack as well. The ability, once during your turn, you may attach an energy, I think from your hand, to one of your Pokemon. And then it has an attack, Fire Colorless, 140. During your opponent's next turn, this Pokemon takes 50 less damage from attacks. I think attacks like this are pretty solid. They can be gusted around. So we've seen it doing good with V-Star in the meta game, but right now it's not that good. Its tankiness just isn't quite enough, especially with getting gusted around and being somewhat awkward to power up. But we see attacks like this, and the ability here is actually really powerful. I'm pretty sure it's from hand. It could be from deck and discard or somewhere else, but I'm pretty sure it's from your hand. And it can be stacked as far as I'm aware as well. It doesn't say anything against that. So this could be really powerful, but you also need an EX stage 1 in play. And EX stage 1s honestly are pretty bad right now in standard. There are a few that see play, but most are weaker than the stage 2s and the basics. I mean, they're stronger than the basics, but only barely. So people just play the basics because they're way easier, and the stage 2s are generally much stronger than the stage 1s. So Flareon EX, though, I really like it. Its ability is super strong, and because it can accelerate any type and special energies, so it can allow you to play really whatever you want. Let's say Blissey EX, it's 3 colorless energy, you can do a double turbo, or 2 basic energies. And if you're playing, I guess the special energies right now aren't that good. Some are really good, but most are colorless. But if you're playing with, say, Dragapult EX, you can use this to accelerate in energy. It can smooth things out, but I think it's really cool. There's a bunch of energy acceleration in standard as well. We didn't have things like Archeops, Baxcalibur, um, Mela, for example, Gardenia's Vigor, TLMS Ogerpon EX, Professor Side's Vitality, and Miragegate, and things like that. Guard 4 EX as well. There's a ton of energy acceleration options in standard, but I think this would be pretty fair actually because there are so many other options that are honestly better in a lot of scenarios, but this one will smooth things out in certain times and is a stage 1 EX which has pretty average HP, which is somewhat vulnerable, not super vulnerable, but a little more vulnerable than you would be normally as you are offering up a 2-prizer with lower than average HP for like stage 2s. So if you're playing like Dragon Ball, right, this is more vulnerable than Dragapult, and also it gives up 2 prizes, so even if your opponent is two-shotting it, it can be stuck as well in the active with a 3 retreat. I love that, making it super awkward to retreat out. I think it's really good. Um, Maybe not for control, right? This makes it trappable by control if you're playing this in I don't know, like Dragapult is fire energy, so it wouldn't be that, but other things. And its attack's pretty solid. Its attack's a little boring, but I think the ability is really cool in the start of the show here, and that's really fun. Next, we got Vaporeon, and it has the ability Cheerful Armor. Pokemon that evolve from Eevee gain 6 to more HP, can't stack. And then the attack here, I think it should have a 40 times multiplier. Water Colorless, flip 3 coins for each heads. This stack does 40 damage to one. Oh, it's not a 40 times multiplier. Oops. So it does 40 times. It is, but 40 damage to one of your opponent's Pokemon for each heads. I always get confused by attacks like this, even in like the regular Pokemon TCG. I think it's all to the same Pokemon. I'm not sure though. It's weird, and so this is pretty good. If it's different Pokemon, honestly, it's not that much better. It's a little random. The ability is pretty straightforward, but it's really good. And Flareon EX, 50 extra, or not 50 extra HP, but taking 50 less, which is similar. And then if you get hit into multiple times, it's essentially like 100 extra HP. And then you have the 60 extra HP. You start at 60, so you're essentially up to 320 is your actual HP, 370, 420, even higher. You're just super tanky, and that could be really fun. The attack is pretty underwhelming. I'm not a massive fan of attacks that are super coin flipped based. There were some in the last video that I said I was a fan of the way that it used coin flips, but this one, the coin flips are the whole attack, and also I mean, it is 3 coins, so you're probably going to get 1 or 2 heads, but you could get 0 or 3, right? That'll happen. A quarter of the time you'll get 0 or 3 heads, and that's a really big difference. But I think this attack's like fine. I'd probably not make it coin flips because I'm generally not a fan of that. I'm also making a format called Random Battles. I'm not making it. I already like did it. I didn't really invent it. It's based off of the Random Battles in the video games. I think it's based on that. I've never played it. I don't play the video game, but yeah, this Vaporeon really cool. And the ability, it's pretty straightforward, but it's cool. I like custom cards and I like looking at them. And this one's pretty straightforward, but still something I like a lot. Then we got the Vaporeon EX. And this one, oh, also this thing is so the way that the Pokecard Maker works, well, the EXs in general, the current standard ones have like the background of the card, or it's like the card, you can still see it in this lower vision here, just like very lightly. So that's why the image is this size, though. You don't want the image to be the whole size of the entire card because that's like not what you want. But that's why it looks like this. I've made some EXs of my own, and they also look like this. So yeah, this weird line here. But this first attack here also 240 HP, but during your opponent's next turn, Pokemon that evolve from Eevee's, during your next turn, Pokemon that evolve from Eevee's attacks. Wait, that wording is weird. That I guess that's right, but it's it's weird. The Pokemon that evolve from Eevee, their attacks do 120 more damage to your opponent's active. That's really cool because we don't see that. Well, we see things like this a lot where it's like this Pokemon does a certain amount more. However, most of the time it gets knocked out or gusted around, so that never applies. It usually just gets knocked out. Those cards are usually really bad. So I think this is fun though. And this says even if you get gusted around or whatever, it's still going to work. And this will apply to all your Pokemon, but it's also pretty bad, just 30 for 2. So it's setting up for a big one-shot or something else. You could also just use this attack over and over. And it's like setting up. I think setup attacks are really cool, and we never see them really either. I mean, we see like Arceus V-Star's kind of a setup attack, but it's a little different. It's not just more damage, it's powering up another attacker. In most setup attacks are like that. It's not like, oh, doing more damage. It's doing good with V-Star, you take less damage, which is kind of similar, but it's different as well. You're just tanking as opposed to doing big damage. So I think this is really fun. And for 4 colorless, if this Pokemon has at least 3 different types of basic energy attached to it, you may place 12 damage counters on your opponent's Pokemon any way you like. This is cool. It fits with Eevee's theming. It's a lot of energy, and it's the same attack as Sableye, which is good, but it's only 1 energy. You need 10 in the Lost Zone. Same thing as Blacephalon from Cosmic Eclipse, maybe? I don't know. That one also had a cost. It was 2 energies, and it was like you had 4 cards in the Lost Zone or something. I could be wrong. I don't remember. No, sorry. In the 4 prizes remaining, it might have been your opponent. It might have been 3. It might have been 2. I don't remember. But it was a player has a certain number of cards or a certain number of prize cards left. So it was only on really one turn of the game. But Vaporeon is does not have that like those weird restrictions, but it is 4 energies, and you're doing 3 different types of basic energy attached to it. That's pretty awkward, even with synergizing with the other EXs, Eeveelution EXs, which there are some, and so this is kind of we're not looking at it truly in a vacuum. Obviously, some reference other cards, so those other cards exist, but we're just assuming they're like um, somewhat generic cards. Like the official cards that have been revealed, there's a Sylveon EX, which is actually separate from the 8 evolutions. It is one of the 8 evolutions, but it's not. There's a set with all 8, and Sylveon EX is not that one. There was another Sylveon EX. I think it's really complicated. Pokemon does weird stuff at times, but there's a Stellar Sylveon EX, and I think the other one's just going to be Terra, but not Stellar. It might not even be Terra. These are not Terras, by the way. But you'll have some multi-type support in some way, but it's still awkward. It's cool. Um, Also, I'm not a big fan that these don't have any synergy together. Because the first attack is to do more damage. The second attack doesn't do any damage. It does placing damage counters, but that's different. I feel like it would be cool if it did maybe even just 10 damage. So you could do big damage to the active. You could do 120 if you use the first attack. Um, but I think the and free retreat's always nice. I don't know if it perfectly fits Vaporeon, but it's not bad either. It very much fits Jolteon. Vaporeon is probably the second Pokemon to put free retreat as an evolution on, and yeah, I think both attacks are really cool. I don't think they don't really have any synergy, so I feel like that would be better if they had synergy. But um, these are definitely really fun attacks. The first one I love so much. It's pretty honestly, they're not that good. They're not like and they're mediocre attacks because the Vaporeon EX it can't be special energies either. It needs to be basic energies. But if you can pay them, it's really cool. I mentioned Mirage Gate earlier. You can Mirage Gate to the second one. You can Mirage Gate just in general, but especially for the second attack. Next, we got Steelion, and I didn't say this at the beginning of the videos, but some of these are custom evolutions. There was a Rocky one. It's not called Rockion. I think it was Boldrion or Boldrion, which is fighting, but this one's metal. There are no fighting or metal evolutions in the TCG. Oh, okay, sorry. I think it's steel in the video. Is that what it is? Something like that. But it's metal in the TCG. So Psychic and Water each have 2 evolutions. Psychic has Vaporeon, or sorry, Psychic has Espeon and Sylveon. Water has Vaporeon and Glaceon, so they both have 2, which is not super great for the TCG. Obviously, I think, 17 types in the video game. There aren't 17 evolutions, but there are 8 evolutions. And in the TCG, there are 8 main types. The other types are colorless, which Eevee is in Dragon, which is very different. It doesn't have basic energy. Colorless has energy, but it's different. But there are 8 main types. There's the types, and metal and fighting do not have evolutions. And also, I did say the types because I don't feel like naming them because I might forget one. But we do have 160 HP metal Pokemon, tanky. That's cool. Makes a lot of sense. I think tanky single prizers are just not that common right now. Roaring Moon, the single prize Roaring Moon, single prize Koraidon, single prize. I think Ragemal has the same amount of HP. It's not out, but it's coming out soon. And when's it coming out? Coming out in the next main set, which is a couple of months away at least. But and also a lot of the single prize ancient Pokemon have 140 HP, which is like tanky for a single prize basic, but also it's not tanky for a single prizer. It's not like super tanky. With the ancient tool, they do get tanky, but I think tanky single prizes are something I would like to see more of because that's the reason why single prizes are so bad because they're always getting one-shotted. Outside of sometimes ancient Pokemon, oh, Great Tusk as well. That one doesn't always get one-shotted. The same thing with a 140 HP. So could survive hits, but it's still awkward. So I think tankiness here is cool. And the first attack is 1 metal, 30 if devolved this turn. It does 90 more. Does this have to be from your hand? I don't know, but this is like fine. We see lots of attacks like this. They're they're okay. Um, I think they're fine. I mean, it's like generally you'd be doing 120 for 1, which is fine. 30 for 1's really bad. But that attack's fine. And the second attack here, doing Metal Colorless 110. Knowing your opponent's next turn, prevent all damage done to this Pokemon by your opponent's basic Pokemon. And it does have a 3 retreat as well, which I mentioned earlier. Also, I think it should be, what era is this? This is a Scarlet and Violet era, so it should probably be resistant to grass. Battle Pokemon right now are resistant to grass, weak to fire, unless they're flying type in the video game, in which case they could be weak to lightning, resisting fighting, but that's not that common. Maybe we got like Skarmory or something, but Steelion probably should be resistant to grass. But this attack prevent all damage done by basic Pokemon. We see this again in this fitting of a tanky Pokemon. It's a little weird in the current metagame. There is Roaring Moonix, which is a very good Pokemon in the metagame. It's not like everywhere, and it's not like the best Pokemon, but it's very good. And it sees play, and it essentially hits through this because its attack does an effect, not actual damage. And then obviously, evolutions are also going through this. But Steelion, still, I like the a defensive nature. I think Metal Pokemon should be defensive. That's something that they usually do. Some people might think that it's overdone, but I like it. I think defensive Pokemon are kind of interesting, and I think they should. I think Metal type's the perfect type. It could be like Rock/Ground type Pokemon, which are represented as fighting Pokemon as well. But I think it makes a lot of sense in Metal Pokemon, and I think Steelion is cool this way. I think the first attack's a little generic. Generic isn't bad, but it could be defensive in its own right as well. Oh, you do have Steelion EX. Oh, we actually see Steelion here, and it's just it's like it's kind of like Umbreon, but it's metal. But then Full Metal Protection is your ability. Also 180 for 3 colors. Obviously pretty generic there, but in an evolution box, it is nice to have colorless attacks. But I think it would be nice to see Metal Energy in its attack cost. But let's see its ability. And so you have it says Full Metal Protection. Each of your metal Pokemon with energy attached takes 30 less damage from attacks used by your opponent's Pokemon, and you can't apply this multiple times. This is kind of interesting, obviously leaning into the defensive nature and leaning into it being a metal Pokemon. It's not leaning into being an Eeveelution. I feel like it's a little weird. It's a little out of place as an Eeveelution because of its ability. Not that that's bad either. I could see this in like a regular set, but I know the attack's pretty boring. I definitely think the Steelion could be a little more interesting, but it's also really cool with the defense. I think the defensive Pokemon are cool. It's not, well, it's pretty tanky. 270 HP is, I think, above average for a Stage 1 EX, and taking 30 less certainly are above average. And it does say each your metal Pokemon, oh, it's metal Pokemon with energy attached. So you don't need metal energy on it, but it's a cool Pokemon. I like it's a little weird. I would say it should be each of your Pokemon with metal energy attached, maybe. So it doesn't need to be a metal Pokemon. It can be any type, and then it encourages you to attach metal energy to Steelion EX. Its attack feels generic. Admittedly, with a support Pokemon, you're not attacking very often, and being colorless is also very good to allow you to avoid, well, not avoid being trapped, but well, kind of, but to allow you to attack if you are trapped in the active. This will certainly be cutting through Stone Axe relatively easily. So yeah, the attack is definitely, I think, the most generic attack we've seen, but still a cool card. Then we got Hauntion. This is the Ghost, I believe, evolution. Let me take a look. Yeah, I mean, that looks like a Ghost evolution. And Psychic is made up of Fairy, Psychic, and Metal. So, no, sorry, what? Fairy, Psychic, and Ghost. Yeah, which is, Fairy is weak to Metal, but then Darkness is the weakness of both. So Psychic and Ghost are both weak to Darkness, and they both resist um, they both resist fighting. I was confused for a second, but then darkness. Um, do ghosts switch types? I don't know. The typing in the TCG is like really confusing, especially if you look back in the past. Um, but anyway, so it's a psychic Pokemon and has the same weakness and resistance as a regular psychic Pokemon, even though it's a ghost Pokemon from the video game. But 110 HP here, evolves from Eevee. Draw a card, feature your Pokemon in play that evolves from Eevee. This is okay. Probably wouldn't really ever see serious play, because it's just drawing cards, and it's not even drawing that many cards. Even if you have, well, I guess it could be drawing a lot. If you have the new stadium in play that gives you 8 bench Pokemon, this evolves from Eevee as well. So you could be drawing technically 9, but like attacks that just draw cards, stage 1, 2 energy. It doesn't really matter how many you draw. It's really slow. You could technically use this turn 1 going second. I think. I'm not entirely sure. Also Free Retreat, which is interesting. I'll see if the EX has Free Retreat. But then the second attack here, Psychic Harvest. put 6 damage counters on your opponent's bench Pokemon any way you like. This is fine. It's cool, honestly. It's a fun attack. It's like Dragapult EX, but like a baby Dragapult EX, and is payable off of reversal. I've mentioned reversal in the previous video with a lot of Pokemon that were EXs saying that they can't use reversal, but their attacks kind of look like they should be able to use reversal. But this one actually can, and it makes good use of it, and it's a solid attacker. It's one payment, or it could be a bunch, depending what deck you're running. And I think there are some cards to support the evolutions as well that we're going to take a look at. Next up, we got Hauntion EX, though. Its ability, as often as you like during a turn, you may switch one of your Pokemon that evolve from Eevee with one of your other Pokemon that evolve from Eevee. This is super cool. I think any support of the Eeveelutions is really fun. This is for your tree, which is nice. You could switch this. Well, you can switch as often as you like. I feel like it might be a little better if it was once per turn. I don't know, but so you may switch one of your Pokemon that evolve from Eevee with one. Yeah, so they both need to evolve from Eevee. And I assume from the active to the bench, that's what it's saying. And then your attack, Psychic Colorless, 100 heal all damage from this Pokemon. This is pretty bad, to be honest, the attack. You could technically stack up a bunch of defensive buffs on Hauntion EX and then like heal a bunch, but it's pretty weak. The ability is pretty interesting. I feel like the attack could be... I'm trying to think what the attack should be to synergize with the ability. It could be a spread attacker, though. That's pretty common in Pokemon like this. We saw it on the single prizer. I don't know. The attack wouldn't be used very much, and it's not really intended to be used very much. It's just a really good switching card in Eeveelution decks. Specifically, it also doesn't switch Eevee itself. So your Eevees could be like trapped for a turn potentially. But I think the ability is fun. You need to be careful if you have an ability like this, and then also an ability that reduces retreat cost, as they are somewhat redundant. But I think Huntion's still really cool with it. Just lots of switching. So next we got Leafeon, though. Leafeon, the grass evolution. And this ability says your Pokemon in play that evolve from Eevee have no weakness. This makes a lot of sense, I think. Obviously, it helps out Eeveelutions, and they all have weakness, I think. And then Grass Colors 180. If your opponent does not have a Pokemon EX and play, this attack does nothing. This is a really interesting attack. It's interesting to note. It's very similar to the attacks from the 151 evolutions. The Vaporeon, Jolteon, and Flareon had very similar attacks. They said it's 90, but 180 to an EX or V. I feel like that I just stick that attack on this Pokemon, but this is able to do 180 to a Pokemon that's not an EX or V. If they just have an EX in play. And a lot of decks put an EX in play, Squawkabilly EX. And then the Terra EXs with the new stadium. You can get a bigger bench by just playing a Terra EX. So I think this is an interesting attack. It's an interesting take on the other evolutions. I don't know if I like it more or less. I feel like if it was actually released, I'd just make it like the other ones. But that's also, kind of boring. That's what Pokemon would do, I imagine. But this is still cool. And then the no weakness thing is cool as well. One minor, I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing. But the evolutions obviously have a lot of different types. That's definitely a good thing. It allows them to hit different weaknesses, but it also means you have different weaknesses. So depending what your opponent is playing, you can use different evolutions. Then this evolution kind of removes that aspect, which I don't know if I'm a big fan of. But I think the second attack is cool. It's something I don't think we've seen much before. We've seen things kind of like it, but I can't think of too many. But I do like the second attack here, or the attack, and the ability is cool as well. Might be a little too straightforward, especially for a custom card. But it is cool. By the way, I like these cards a lot. I'm criticizing them some in the first video that I recorded. I felt like I gave too many compliments. Not that they weren't good, or that I didn't like them. I like them a lot, but I felt like I was giving too many compliments. But these cards are really cool. I think they're all pretty much like equally as cool, to be honest. And this like is kind of a cop out, but that's what I think. And I think these are still really cool. And then this Leafeon EX, which has its ability here once during your turn. If this Pokemon is in the active spot, you may use this ability, discard an energy from. Oh, and so I should resume the other. So I'm saying I'm being a little more critical because I feel like I want to give more analysis as well. I felt like I didn't give enough analysis last time. But the ability, once during a turn, if this Pokemon is in the active spot, you may use this ability, discard an energy from your hand. During this turn, your opponent's attacks will do 30 more damage to your opponent's active. Oh, that's interesting. Um, There's a lot to look at with this card. So it needs to be in the active, and then you discard an energy. Can be a special energy, can be a basic, and then you just switch it out. One retreat, it's an evolution. I think there's a card like this last time. I don't remember if it was made by Sam Bam or if it was made by someone else, but and I need to be in the active. And then uh, the 30 more damage. This is not related to Eeveelutions, but it's related to any Pokemon, so it's pretty cool. It's very different than like the evolution cards that are just evolution synergy. But it's a really fun card. There's a lot going on, but it's not like also it's not a ton of text for the amount that's going on, which I really like. So it has a layer of like complexity, um, but it's not like super difficult to figure out. And it does a bunch. Discarding energy could be good as well. It could be bad though. It's a thing cost you need to pay. And then it just to the active, which is very common. Uh, so I think that's cool. Also, I will say I think it would be cool if we see damage buffs to essentially damage counters or to bench damage. We don't really ever see that. It's really complicated to do and can scale really weirdly, but that is something that I think would be fun to see, at least in custom cards. But yeah, I think that ability is super interesting with a lot going on. It needs to be in the active, so you need to switch it out. You need the energy. You need then you of course need an attacker, but it doesn't attack your shuffle. For 2 color, shuffle up to 5 energy from your discard pile into your deck. Does 20 damage for each energy you shuffle back in this way. I feel like this is a little weak. It's only hitting 100. It is recovering, and then it's being buffed by 30. Oh, and this does stack as well, but you need to switch out maybe with the stacking, it's very fair, and it can recover. Oh, and it can recover special energies too. Yeah, maybe this is pretty fair. I feel like you could say it does has a base of 20 damage, so it's doing 20 more. Feels about right, but also it is recovering special energies, and it will be buffed by Leafeon. I think this card is really cool. Also opens up the door to pair this with all sorts of other cards. I think that it might have been Sylveon EX we took a look at that accelerated an energy if it was in the active or something like that. Which works with special energy. This works with the special energy. So special energy often does not get a lot of support. You look at cards like Super Odd, Energy Retrieval, Earthen Vessel, um, a lot of cards like Mela. I'm pretty sure, like pretty much any energy card, any card that interacts with energy in the discard pile or in your deck, it's only basic energy, which is often pretty boring. It leaves special energies to be left behind, and so only cards like Archeops that interact specifically with special energies, and then cards that interact with energy in play will interact with special energies. But even a card like Chimpao EX, I honestly don't remember exactly how it works, but I'm pretty sure you can discard basic energies. Or sorry, no, you can definitely discard basic energies. I'm pretty sure you can discard special energies, but if it's like a double energy, a double water energy somehow, I think it will only be providing essentially one energy's worth of damage because it's only one card. So I think interactions with special energies I really love, and I would love to see more of them. Next up, we got Espeon, and this one says if this Pokemon is in the active, you may use this ability. So again, we see this active ability theme, and you may use this ability to place 2 damage counters on one of your opponent's Pokemon in any way on your opponent's Pokemon in any way you like. You can only use one of this ability at a time. I'm a little confused by this text. I think this is per turn. You can only use one of this ability. Um, or wait. Yeah, or once per turn you can use this ability. Yeah, I think that's what it's saying. You might be able to use multiple Espeons. I'm a little confused about that one. Um, wait, what did the Leafeon say at Leafeon EX? Yeah, that one said once during a turn. So I think it's like once during a turn is kind of what's saying, or it could be you can only use one this ability per turn. I'm not sure, but either way, it's pretty cool. Extra damage, always fun. It needs to be in the active. You can spread it around, and then 60 during your opponent's next turn. The defending Pokemon can attack. This is a classic attack. It's okay. A lot of X can switch out, but as a support Pokemon, it's also fine to have a mediocre attack like this. So I think the ability is super awesome, and I can see a bit more theming. This was not included on the previous evolutions, except for the ones shown in the previous video. Except for one, maybe two, but I think it's a really cool theme we got going here. Then Espeon EX, and also it means you want to obviously switch out a lot to get a lot of value from the abilities. Espeon EX though, and to start from Espeon GX, I don't remember what this art is. I definitely recognize it though. And it's the first attack 260 HP, by the way. Psychic, one psychic though, you can only use this attack if you have 5 Pokemon in play that evolve from Eevee, which includes itself, and they don't need to be different. There's one that was, I think, all essentially you needed all different, like benched Eeveelutions or something. But this is place 12 damage counters on your opponent's Pokemon in any way. Like, wow, that's really good. And payable. I think the Sylveon EX was kind of like that as well. And yeah, this is pretty. It's pretty powerful. Sorry, I might have said the wrong Pokemon. There might have been multiple Sylveon EXs. I don't remember. I'm recording these videos like a few hours apart, so but placing 12 damage counters on your opponent's Pokemon anyway, like we've seen this with Sableye, we've seen it with Blacephalon, we've seen it with cards like it that aren't maybe quite as powerful, but are all really good. It's really powerful. You could spam this as well. I think this attack's really solid, though. A bit awkward to get up, but it might be too easy, but I like it. I think it's fine. I like powerful cards, powerful custom cards. Then 3 colorless, it does 90, 30 more damage for each energy attached to this Pokemon. I feel like this attack, the second attack's okay. I mean, it's balanced to standard. Also, free retreat. I feel is a little weird on Espeon. Does Espeon usually have free retreat or like ever? I don't remember though. I don't know all the Espeons, but maybe it does. I think some might have. I don't remember. But 3 colorless, it does 30 more damage for each energy attached to only this Pokemon as well. So this one seems underwhelming. You're hitting like 180. It's not bad, but I feel like the second attack, or sorry, the first attack is way more powerful. I don't know. Maybe I'm underrating the second attack, overrating the first attack. But yeah, it's cool. The second attack and first attack are very different. It almost feels like the second attack's the safe and normal attack. The first attack's the like super powerful, super heavy setup attack, which is not normal. But certain Pokemon work like that. So yeah, no, I really like this Espeon EX. Next we got Sylveon. Your opponent's Dragon Pokemon now have Psychic type weakness. Oh, that's really cool. Okay, and then flip coin. If heads during your opponent's next turn, prevent all damage done to this Pokemon for 60 for 2 energy. I am not a big fan of this attack. I'm going to be completely honest. I find it not fun, but I know it's a thing that like exists so often as well. I'm not going to say like it's an issue. I don't know. If this was in like a meta deck, it would kind of so if you don't know, there's a format called Theme, which I always call themed with a D, but it doesn't have that. But theme format, theme decks, they had there's a format with those in Pokemon TCG Online. It was really fun in my opinion. But the best, and probably the second best deck, I think most people would agree, is Relentless Flame. The best deck was Soaring Storm, but then the second best deck was Relentless Flame. You could argue other decks. There certainly are other very viable decks, but that's what generally most people agreed upon. And it had a card with intact that was like this 60 flip a coin of heads immunity. Super annoying, but really good as well. But in standard, this wouldn't be that good. We see this in standard. But dragon type having psychic weakness, it's like dragon Pokemon used to have fairy weakness for like a few years. How many years? I don't remember. I don't remember if the later like if X and Y they had fairy weakness. I know they had it in Sun and Moon. But X and Y they might have been weak to Dragon still. I don't remember. But anyway, it's pretty cool. They normally don't have any weakness. Giving him weakness is cool. It might go against Pokemon's design philosophy of having Pokemon without weakness. But there are other ways to change weakness. They're pretty bad, but I think it's fun. And yeah, I think Sylveon's it's a pretty cool it's a really cool ability in my opinion because weakness is something that's just kind of in the game. It's kind of just there. It does have meaning, but it just kind of makes certain matchups like weird and honestly less fun a lot of the time. So I think, and it does create certain decks, but I think the Sylveon changing weaknesses, or it's not changing, but it's adding a weakness. That's cool. Sylveon EX here now with 250 HP. Once during your turn, you may put one of your Pokemon that evolved from Eevee, including Sylveon EX, and all cards attached to it, into your hand. Okay, that's really good. I think scoop up effects are really cool. This might be a little too powerful. The Eeveelutions, all on their own, are really solid, but when put together, they might be like super broken. But it's fun. I like scoop up effects. I think scoop up net should not be banned and expanded. I know that's a pretty hot take. I know it's super like broken, but also like so are a lot of cards, right? So, and yes, it can lead to Donk, and Donk is not fun, but it also has some cool combos. It enables Pelipper and Expanded, and Pelipper is fun. It's not that fun, it's kind of bad. But Sylveon EX, though, 140, draw till you have 7 cards in hand. I think the ability should be on play. I think that would balance it more. The once return thing is so good. and it has fewer treat as well, so it can be like a pivot. It can be like a double pivot. It's super good, but the attack's also pretty underwhelming. It's like fine. It's actually not that bad, but it's not that good. But the ability is so good. I feel like it's too strong, especially with the evolutions having like tanky abilities and stuff. So I think you're gonna end up with a very tanky, almost too tanky a deck that's essentially infinite. But it is a switch effect as well. Maybe it is good. Um, because it does act as a switch effect, which is really cool for synergy. Um, yeah, maybe it could be. Um, I'm not entirely sure how to view work. I feel like it's too strong. I'm interested in hearing your thoughts down below in the comments if you think an ability like this would be too strong paired with other solid evolutions. But really fun ability. I think it's an ability I like, but it might be a little. Oh, sorry, excluding Sylviani X. Okay, I misread that. So still really good. Maybe should discard the cards attached as well. I don't know, but we got EVEX. In this ability, once during a turn, you may search your deck for an evolution Pokemon and put it into your hand. You can only use one friend calling ability per turn. This is interesting. This is something I've been a little critical of Pokemon with in the past, is that EVEX, this can't evolve into the evolutions. And we saw this with, now I think EVGX could evolve into it, but with EVV and EVV Max, then the Eeveelution VMAXs, man, the EVV, like, this is getting really complicated to say, but the Eeveelution VMAXs couldn't evolve from EVV, which felt kind of weird. The EVV was super bad, and EVV Max was also really bad. I think there's two EVVs, and so they were all bad. But yeah, I think it would be cool if this had an ability to let it evolve into the Eeveelution EXs, but I understand why it doesn't as well. Wait a second. Sorry. Did one of those? I think we've had multiple Pokemon, so you need like six Eeveelution EX in play. I obviously can't do that. I didn't think about that before. I mean, there are kind of ways to cheat evolution, but I don't know. Is that what they said? I don't know. Maybe there's some card to like do that. You need to make sure it's actually something obtainable. I feel like six like evolutions in play is a fair number, but you obviously need to be able to actually get them in play. Um, oh, never mind. Ditto can evolve into any Pokemon that evolves from EV. There we go. Search your deck for a card and put it into your hand, then shuffle your deck for one colorless as well. That's completely fine. Ditto being the Pokemon that evolves into Eevee is kind of weird. It's just like Eevee, but it's Ditto. I mean, that's okay. I think it should be like the art would have to be like an Eevee that's a Ditto or a Ditto that's an Eevee. But this is cool. It's like Ditto Prism Star, which can evolve into any stage one. So it's fair, I think. It's pretty balanced. It's theming wise, it's a little weird. I think it would be better actually if it was an item card that was like a Pokédoll card. It gives up a prize, or like a fossil. But so it's an item. It's a little more awkward to get into play because this is just another EV unless it's ability locked. But I think Ditto is it's fine. I think it's a cool card. I was literally just talking about it. I haven't looked at these really much before. So I think Ditto's fine, but I think it would make more sense if it was an item. I think it would be a little more balanced and a little more unique because this card's pretty boring. I understand why it is what it is. And if you had to choose any Pokemon for this role, I think Ditto makes the most sense. I don't really know any other Pokemon that would do this, but it's a little weird having a Ditto that's literally just Eevee. Then we have Eevee. We actually have an Eevee now. 51 colorless during your next turn if one of your Pokemon's, if one of your opponent's Pokemon is knocked out by a Pokemon by damage from one of your Pokemon that evolves from Eevee, take one more prize. That's a lot of text, but it's not that much, but it's a little, it's not that wordy, but yeah, this is interesting. Taking extra prizes is, in my opinion, an interesting mechanic. I know some people hate it. It can be annoying, I know, but also like you're not taking knockout with Eevee. So this is another setup attack. I mentioned setup attacks in the last video and how much I like them. And this is a setup attack that actually works because it's not like if the defending Pokemon is knocked out, you take an extra prize. No, because then they're just going to switch and it's not going to matter. This is an effect on you, the player, and your board state. It's kind of complicated, but yeah, I think I really love this Eevee. It's probably just going to get knocked out, but means that if you go second, you're not really behind because you can take an extra prize, which I like. Yeah, I think this Eevee is just really cool. And I'd love to see cards like this. I think taking extra prizes is cool, but we see cards like Clefable, um, Chansey, Briere, I think is the card that works with Terra Pokemon, and they're kind of weird. and a little unnatural feeling. This kind of feels like Briere to be honest, but those are like that's all right, and it's like balanced. Maybe we'll see. We'll see what's going on with Briere when that comes out. Also, I might be saying the wrong card. I think I'm saying the right one. But then you have like Clefable, I think is the right one, and Chansey, and they're like so bad. Because some like say if you take a knockout, you take extra prizes. Iron Hands EX is really good, but a lot do really bad damage, so it's a really hard thing to balance. But this is also it's not a once per game thing, but it's probably a once per game thing. If you're not, this means you're not attacking with an Eeveelution, not doing substantial damage. So it's just a setup attack, but it's fine. I think it has some interesting use cases as well. Then you have Flower Picker as supporter. I literally have no idea what to expect from these, but it says attach up to 2 energy from your hand to your Pokemon that evolve from Eevee in any way you like. Then draw 2 cards. If you have at least 5 Pokemon in play that evolve from Eevee, you draw 4 cards. This is pretty cool. It's pretty balanced, I think. I mean, it's pretty good, right? But we see cards like Professor Sal's Vitality, Gardenia's Vigor. We saw Welder and Melanie in the past, and we see other cards like this. So I think this card's good. I think it can accelerate special energies as well. I mean, it can, based on its wording. I think this is a pretty fun card and pretty fair. You do need to accelerate energies. Wait, no, do you? Um, I don't know if you need to. I think it should say that you have to accelerate the energies to draw the cards, though, to make it a bit more balanced. I think it's quite strong within the Eeveelution deck, very much like Professor Sada's Vitality. Um, but I think it's fun. I mean, it has a ton of synergy with the Eeveelutions, and maybe it should actually. I'd have it force you to attach to 2 different Pokemon. Maybe I don't know. That might make it too bad actually, but I think this card's cool. And I really like the idea. Then we have flower-filled field. There we go. I said it. Any EV in play may evolve during your first turn. You play them, excluding either player's first turn. Okay, that's really interesting. Your Pokemon that evolved from EV also may use the attacks of that Pokemon's previous evolutions. Okay, that's kind of interesting. I think copying previous evolutions is really cool. Most EVs are pretty bad, even though we saw it was like good as a setup attack for next turn, but not. I don't know. It created some kind of weird dynamics, to be honest. But this could allow you to take extra prizes over and over. I don't know about the previous evolution thing. It's kind of weird on Eevee because Eevee's generally bad, especially with the Eevee we saw was just it was weird. It had certainly a powerful use case, but I don't think it has a ton to do with the stadium unless it does, in which case it's way too good. Either it's really good or really bad with the stadium interaction with the Eevee. But then the evolving during your first turn and play except the first turn, I really like because this means that you're evolving on the same turn you normally would be for in terms of like turns that you could be evolving into EVs, but it also means that you can stream EVs faster and more consistently. And if you're knocked out with if all your like EVs are knocked out, you're still able to bounce back, which is a big issue with evolution decks. They get all their basics knocked out, and they're never able to get off the ground at all, and their opponent's just able to completely destroy them. We see issues with Dragapult EX and various different things. This could also mean you don't need to play any EVs and just burst EVs into play. I think the stadiums are really cool. The first part, the second part is fine. They're also super different. They're both obviously interacting with EVs, but they're both 2 very different things. But I do think Flowerfield Field is a really cool stadium. The 2 aspects are interesting. The second aspect's a little weird on Eevee in particular. It's not. I mean, it's weird and it's a weird thing. We see it like we saw Relicanth. We have Relicanth in standard, cool card, but Flowerfield Field certainly a stadium that I like the first effect a lot. Second effect I like, but I don't know if it quite fits. Then Hyper EV Energy. I saw this card. I don't know what it does. It's a colorless special energy ace spec card. When this Pokemon is attached to a Pokemon, or sorry, when this card is attached to a Pokemon, it provides 1 colorless energy. But when this energy is attached to a Pokemon that evolves from Eevee, it provides 3 energy of any type. And if if the Pokemon this card is attached to is knocked out, put that Pokemon and all cards attached to it into your hand. Except for this energy. That's pretty interesting. The recovering aspect, it's like a splash energy kind of. And that's kind of interesting. It's not bad. I mean, it's good. I don't know if the second part's necessary. It just adds a little bit of complication. But oh, I think the wording in the energy is off as well. The The special energy wording of any type is super weird. I think it provides every type of energy, but only X amount at a time, which gets really weird. It like confuses people, and an energy is like multiple energies. It's really weird, but yeah, this is it's very, I think, obvious. I don't want to be like mean, but it's very obvious, but also is good. I think it makes a lot of sense to have some special EV energy. We might even see this. We might see a card like this in the evolution set. This is probably the most likely card to come into the game. Probably not that second effect, but that first effect, I would not be shocked if we see a card literally like essentially identical to this. But yeah, I think this aspect's really fun. So if you want, you can also submit your evolutions in my Discord server down below in the description, I think. Also, comment down below your thoughts on these cards. And consider liking and subscribing to the channel as well. But I hope you enjoyed. And as always, I'm excited to see you in the next video.